What's up, Mr. Hill? It's our final one through history here.
Goody's final send-off.
We're in Aiden Goodwin Memorial Corner, aka Castor Corner, and we're going to talk about 9/11.
Yeah. So our topic today, a little more serious, on the more serious end.
We take it to a desk, by the way.
And we did not go over this, but we got permission to do 9/11 because it is personal to my family, and I feel like it should be talked about in world history. So,
on September 11, 2001, a terror attack was planned against the United States, led by Al Qaeda, which is better known for Osama bin Laden.
yeah, leader
of Al Qaeda. So at first, there were 4 planes, each of them getting hijacked. I believe one was from Boston, one was from Boston,
Yeah.
I think there was 2 from Boston.
2 from Boston,
One from
DC.
and then one from, might have been 2 from DC, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
2 from DC, 2 from Boston. So that actually affects this area a lot due to the fact that we're in the perimeter of Boston.
So
Now, 2 of these flights ended up going to the North and South Tower. One of these flights went and hit the Pentagon, and then another one was believed to be going to the Capitol building.
either the Capitol building or the White House.
And it's not known, but the passengers inside made a heroic act to get into the cockpit and get the hijackers out, but by then it was too late because the plane was already going down, and they didn't know how to pull back up.
They were heroes because they took their own lives to save many others.
There's probably more than what was on the plane.
Yeah, way more. As well as, like, even if it hit the White House, it would have been an even bigger disaster for Americans.
And it would also leave a bad outlook on the U.S. government and economy. Other countries can see that it was actually very simple for the White House to get attacked, and maybe it will change a point of power for the U.S. and make them viewed as less powerful for being able to let something like that happen, which also could lead to a new look against them in the world stage.
So, the first plane was piloted by Mohammed Atta. He was the first hijacker and probably the most famous out of the 2. He was on Flight 11 and crashed into the North Tower at about 8:45 a.m.
Some of the drawings up there are crazy good. I like showing them.
By
They show me
8:40,
the armies.
Yeah,
8:47, there were firefighters there already, right
That's
away.
potential though.
And they just tried to get everyone out as fast as possible, but obviously, when you have a tower, 100, I think it's
Yeah, it was 100 floors.
Almost 100 floors high. In that vicinity, you're not going to be able to get that many people out. So
Yeah, it was hit, like, towards the top. Forget what
it was
exact floor it was.
75
Yeah.
to 85.
So
around
it
there.
was
They don't know
towards the
exact
top,
floor.
so the people at the top were pretty much screwed.
Stranded, and then everyone else still was screwed because they couldn't use the elevators. They had to go down 75 flights of stairs, which,
Yeah.
if you've ever gone up and down stairs, 75 flights is not a very quick or fun thing,
Yeah, so
especially when the building's on fire.
if they were on, like, the top few stairs, there was videos, like, on a documentary on Netflix. There was people that would, like, jump out of the windows from, like, 85 floors and just land straight on the ground.
There's videos of firefighters walking around, and they're in buildings, some being in the other tower, you can hear bodies hitting.
Yeah, it was. There's pictures of them midair, like, jumping. And about 15 or 20 minutes later, the second plane hit the South Tower. Also about, like, 75 to 85. It was on Flight 175, 9:03 a.m. exactly, and then
908, the FAA, which is the Federal Air Administration, banned all.
Yeah, they shut
grounded all
down
flights,
the airports.
Meaning all planes in the air can keep going, but everything on the ground.
Yeah,
is ready to
nothing
go.
could take off.
Leave. Things could only arrive, and planes were heavily monitored anyway already. And after that, for the next few hours, even into the next day, flights weren't really taking off. It was like a standstill. And if you look at like a flight map, you can see it goes empty.
So, about a half an hour later, Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon. I think that was the one from Washington D.C. that ended up staying. And they went, didn't it go like all the way and then turn back around to Washington D.C.? Crashed into the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. exactly. Killed 59 people on the plane and 125 people inside the building. There was also on the documentary, there was a video of a soldier inside of it, and like their room was filled with fire and smoke once it got hit, and she had to save like a bunch of people's lives, throwing them out windows, and she survived, but she was like very, very badly hurt.
So now, want to send in the
And then-
stories we have?
Hold on. Finally, there is the plane. There, we already talked about this, but the plane
Oh, Pennsylvania.
that hit Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I forget exactly what time it was, but
It was a big empty field.
yeah, it was in the middle of the woods with like it was pretty close to the White House and the Capitol though, but the people in the plane definitely saved a bunch of people's lives and made a heroic act. So we're gonna move on to a different part of it. Yeah.
So there was a man, the Red Bandana, known as the Red Bandana Man, who during the attack was actually seen running into towers to go save people. He came out with how many people would you say?
It was
The numbers were three. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But he'd go in and save all of these people. And he was helping move them down the stairs of these huge buildings. Like you can't really comprehend the size until you're in the building. And there were so many people stuck in the stairwell, filled with smoke, and he would help push them all through. All of them.
So his name was Welles Crowther, and he went to Boston College. He has a charitable fund that's like raised for how many lives he saved, pretty much, and also his family. His red bandana, that's what he's known for, because he was wearing one during the time, is currently on display in the 9/11 Memorial and Museum.
I'm still amazed you guys know this song.
And we were, like, they showed us a video in middle school about it. We would watch it, like, every year. And you could see, like, he has to be, like, ridiculously brave to do that.
Yeah, he knew the tower would fall any minute. He knew he'd die.
He knew there was, like, he was putting his life at risk, and there was a very minimal chance that he would survive from this, but he felt like he had to do it, and he did, and he's a hero in America and New York.
So now let's talk about, before we go into stories, let's talk about 9/11. The impact is not only the people that lived there, but the people right after it, born in the years coming, like our age, 2009. We learn about this all through elementary, middle, and high school because it's such a huge event that happened legit right before we were born. And it's like kind of a big topic in the years after. So it's covered a lot in middle school and high school. Now you want to go into stories?
Yeah, so
Tell them Donnie. Give them
my
Donnie.
dad, Coach Don Collins, was in New York at the time of the 9/11 bombings and the plane attacks. So he lived in Manhattan, not far from there, and he told me this like a couple years ago. He used to like write stories about his experiences. He has a bunch of like papers that he would write about in school about it, about his time there and his experience. He worked pretty close to the World Trade Center, actually, and he said it was really, like, he was really hurt by it, and every day, or every time 9/11, like, we remember that day on September 11th, that it's really personal for our family, and like, it's close to our hearts. Especially, like he said, there was one time where he like saw the people jumping out of the buildings. Like, he would see them just falling 85 stories to their death.
And seeing people fall
Yeah.
in buildings takes a huge toll on you, whether you realize it or not, because it's like later that day, after seeing that, you're gonna think to yourself that those are real people, and like they're all the stories behind themselves. So this can take an emotional toll on not only the people that were involved, but the people that are bystanders or nearby. They were also involved too.
Yeah. There was also, I forget.
I can go to my dad's story.
Yeah, go to that.
So my dad wasn't in New York, but he was working, and I forget what he was, but he was at work, and he runs a company, but sometimes what they do is like they have stuff, they have to do roads. His company just plowing and all that in winter, and they would do a lot of paving and stuff and all that. He runs all this, but sometimes here and there he'll actually go onto the job site and actually work with the guys sometimes, because he can do both. And he has a lot of certifications that most guys don't. So he'll go out there from time to time, and he happened to be out there that day, and they were working near an Air Force base. And my dad being in Boston, he wasn't really that close to New York. I mean, Boston and New York are relatively close when it comes to like plane flights, but it's not in a nearby vicinity. Like, it's a decent drive. And he was working fighter jets were scrambled everywhere, and he remembers working, looking up every few minutes a new fighter jet would take off. And for him, that was just like, while it's not scary, it's still kind of confusing. Like, you're wondering why all these jets are in the air circling around. Like, it confuses you because you don't see it every day where tens and a couple dozen fighter jets fly by you, because that's just not normal.
So I actually saw this a couple weeks ago. There's like a couple famous people who were supposed to like board one of the 9/11 flights, but like there was mishaps that happened, so they couldn't get on the plane. So a couple like very notable ones. Mark Wahlberg, he was scheduled to go on Flight 11, the first plane that hit the North Tower, but he changed his flight a few days earlier when he was asked to fly to Toronto by his friend. So that was really lucky. And the one like even more surprising, Seth MacFarlane, it was like an absolute miracle. So he was also scheduled on Flight 11. He missed his flight by like 2 minutes. He was like rushing to the airport, and he missed it because he was like he was drinking all night and like just couldn't get to the flight. So it's a miracle that he didn't get on there.
And now next, let's talk about how 9/11 made an impact, and actually that was kind of a segue into an even bigger world event that lasted a long, long time and actually killed thousands of people. So 9/11 obviously was led by Al-Qaeda, which is mostly based out of the Middle Eastern countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, where they usually train there because they can get away with it. And there's plenty of other terrorist groups there too, but they rebel against the government there. They're hosted there. They're allowed to get in. They find their ways in, train rebellion fighters there. And 9/11 really led to what we all know as Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda was seen in Afghanistan a lot, as well as Pakistan, as I said. So once Al-Qaeda struck, it was instantly like kind of, it's like poking the bear. Don't poke the bear, because you poke the bear, it's gonna get mad. Al-Qaeda poked the U.S. The U.S. got mad. They were ready to go right back, right away. And this is what they call the War on Terror. And basically they went in and they wanted to wipe the Taliban off the face of the planet, and Osama bin Laden too. So this led to a huge war, and the U.S. has been in Afghanistan up until what was it, 2020 they went through, somewhere around there. Just as I think it was right after Biden became president, right?
Yeah.
So they were keeping Afghanistan up, but that was from just after 2001. Even before that, they were in Afghanistan here and there, but they went back, and it started the longest war for Afghanistan.
Yeah, so all that, the war on terror pretty much led to the Taliban falling apart and the killing of their leader, Osama bin Laden. That was one of the 5 ways September 11th changed America. So the war on terror was a main part of it, as well as air travel has been transformed. So a lot more security was put into place. Yeah, so it said that Jeffrey Price, a professor of the security system, said they had no security back then, and they did a terrible job of not stopping them. And they pretty much changed everything.
So then we had Operation Neptune Spear, which was the operation in which the Navy SEALs went in, and they'd been looking for Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, for years and years and years. When they finally got a tip of where he was, it matched up with what they had already, and they had no reason not to believe that this is where he was hiding. Everything matched up. There was a normal house in a residential area with random 18-foot high walls and outposts on it with armed guards. That makes sense, right? So during the night, there was 2 modern stealth Black Hawk helicopters that took in the Navy SEALs. One of them went in, and there actually wasn't malfunction during this time, but they powered through, and they stormed the compound at night. They all went in, and basically just cleared out the whole compound. They just went through. Everyone was killed. They tried, obviously, children that they found were killed. If there was an unarmed person, they kind of captured them. They put them all in one place to make sure they didn't move. But all the men were shot, I'm pretty sure. Just everyone, because you can't trust them. You're going in with a compound, and there could be bombs and guns anywhere pointed at you. So you have to be ready for that. So they went through all these rooms, scanning for Osama, and finally they got to the top of the staircase. His son was there. They figured him out by talking Arabic. He got distracted, thinking that it was one of the Taliban fighters, and that it was all clear. He went in, they shot him. They opened up a room, Osama was there. Bravo Dale was a Navy SEAL that went in and actually laid the final shots into Osama. He claims at first he didn't realize that he killed Osama bin Laden, but after he said it, he was like, holy crap, I killed Osama bin Laden. But this is all this crazy stuff was legit just an outcome of 9/11.
Yeah.
And without 9/11, they would have never had to go in to deal with this.
So a lot more terrorism, the terrorists were upset, and that also led to the Boston Marathon, where the Tsarnaev brothers were like upset that they were outcasted, and they wanted to put down the big bad Americans by putting a bomb during the Boston Marathon race. 2 of them, and there was supposed to be a third one, but it didn't go off. And
So I have a crazy story about that.
yeah,
Boston bombing, actually, this is a crazy story before the end, but my godfather actually sold the guy who was hiding a boat. You remember that? He hid in a boat in the year robot design for, like, looking for this guy. And I can't talk too much about this guy's job, but I know, obviously, he built this robot that actually went in under the boat, found him in
and
the boat.
found the like the heat
Yeah.
and motion in the boat,
That's exactly how
and they ripped the tarp off and found them.
Yeah, I think there's actually a camera.
Yeah,
So we'll have to ask
that's pretty much it. That's 9/11 and the causes and effects of one of the biggest moments in American history, and some personal messages and accounts that we had.
Alright, so yeah, end it off for the year. It's the fellas at Yo,
This is Aiden Goodwin's.
logging out from Aiden Goodwin Memorial Corner. See Michelle, we got Malky here. Big Malky. Rip you off the wall. Hold on. You're on a piece of tape right now, Mr. Hill. Just wrapped her on a desk. Off the camera. We have Malky signing off, Haji off, Xavier, Hase,
Yo.
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 See you fellas.